Now, if we enter a war with Syria, I believe we're in a no-win situation. What are the consequences? A guy who would know is Frank Gaffney. He is the president for the Center for Security Policy. Frank, is it fair to call you a hawk? I mean, you're a guy who's generally saying, you know, a strong America, let's go in and clean up a mess.
I think that would be an unfair characterization. I think that I am of very much the view that Ronald Reagan espoused, of peace through strength. Well, and I believe that you can actually avoid having wars by having the strength that persuades everybody that you don't want to fight us.
Correct.
Frank. Getting into fights that are unnecessary.
No. And I don't mean that, and I didn't mean to offend you on that. I would look at Reagan as a hawk.
Not offended.
Reagan was a guy who, you know, we are not messing around. If we have to go in and do a job, we're going to go do a job. But everybody would look
I wasn't quibbling about the term hawk.
Yeah, okay.
Glenn, I don't think that using force inappropriately is a good idea. And I think in the case, just as you were saying earlier, of Syria, that would be a mistake. I don't think we should be doing it.
Everybody will usually say, anybody who is a hawk, anybody who is on the right, they just want war. They just want to kill people. They just want to use the machinery. And you're exactly right. Can I have been noodling this, Frank? And this is why I wanted to have you on, because this is what you've done for your whole life. Tell me one good reason, or tell me what you think is really happening, because I can't come up with a good reason, and so that tells me something else is going on.
Look, the reasons are not hard to find, but the problem is they're not compelling. When subjected to close scrutiny, Glenn, they're not good reasons, and I think you're right about that. The humanitarian interest, trying to discourage people from using chemical weapons in the future, standing up for, you know, the principle. All of these things are not going to work out, even if they were, you know, morally compelling, and they probably are. They're not going to work out under these circumstances for the basic reason that there are no good guys in Syria. I mean, not to say that the people of Syria don't have good people among them. They certainly do, and there may even be a few people fighting Bashar Assad and the Free Syrian Army who are good guys. But unfortunately, the people who are going to vie for power and ultimately prevail are either Bashar Assad, a proxy and client of Iran, and its surrogates Hezbollah on the one hand, and at the very best, the Muslim Brotherhood. And at worst, as Sarah Carter was saying, Al-Qaeda on the other. This is not a civil war in which we can possibly have an outcome that will be in our interest, and I think becoming embroiled in it for whatever humanitarian or altruistic reasons is a strategic mistake of the first order.
Okay, I don't believe that we are actually doing it for humanitarian reasons, or we would be helping the Coptic Christians as well. That just doesn't make sense. There's no consistency on that. Russia and China are threatening us now. Iran is threatening us. If we went in there and we did what they're saying now, we're just lobbing a few missiles in, do you think everybody just sits on their hands and just says, okay, all right, well, we'll just leave it alone. America made its point, well, let's leave it alone. Do you think that's realistic to happen, that we can just go in at something very low level and everybody just turns away?
Yeah. Glenn, I call this the Goldilocks strategy. We don't want too much. We don't want too little. We want it just right. And whether that's 2 days of bombing or whether it's bombing this target or that target, certainly not regime change, as we've been told by this press spokesman at the White House. War isn't like that. And unfortunately, as I think your analogy back to, the guns of August, interestingly enough, 1914, is so apt, is a lot of this is a function of perceptions and behavior that may be mistakenly based on wrong perceptions, but nonetheless, people are behaving on the basis of what they perceive. And here's really the kicker, and what I guess would make me a hawk, certainly relative to Barack Obama, Glenn, is I believe much of what we're confronting today in Syria, from Russia, from China, from Venezuela and others, is a perception that we're weak, that we're irresolute, that we've hollowed out our military, that we're disengaging from the world. And I personally think that that is going to make not only our interests much more vulnerable to bad things, but it's going to make the world a much more dangerous place. Not that we need to intervene everywhere, not that we want to or should, but that we've got the capability to project power credibly and the will to do it decisively. That's missing, and in its absence, as I say, I think the world becomes a more dangerous place.
Frank, here's the thing. I don't believe that that America can be the world's policeman. I don't believe that we should be involved in everybody else's business. I think that's one of the things that I have grown to really embrace with the libertarians. Where we part is there are times when it is in our interest that my feeling is we pound you into glass and we walk away. We're not rebuilding you. We're not nation building. You screw with us and we pound you into the ground. And then we leave. And it doesn't take 4 years to do that. It takes you a couple of weeks to really unleash the hellfire that we have. That's how you get credibility, especially in the Middle East. And then you walk away and say, don't ever do it to us again. And you leave.
Right.
Is that wrong?
If you have to, you need to have the capability to do it. What I'm arguing is, if you have the capability credibly to do it, and everyone thinks that you will, you probably don't have to use it.
Yes.
And that's certainly to be preferred.
Yes.
It's certainly to be preferred.
Yes.
But here's the problem. We have spent the 5 years of this administration hollowing out our armed forces. This isn't widely understood, but the truth of the matter is what is left today is a fraction of what Barack Obama inherited. It's still very powerful, don't get me wrong, and relative to some, if not many of the other powers we might contend with in the world, it's formidable. But it is not, I believe, any longer a credible deterrent to bad behavior. And if you fail to deter that kind of behavior, count on it. You're going to get more of it. Now, will that all be at our expense? Maybe, maybe not. But it will certainly be at the expense of our friends and allies. And as a result, you know what? We're going to have fewer of them. Okay. You have fewer friends and allies. You have to do more of this yourself. And you talk about policemen of the world. There's no more exemplary indication that the president thinks we are the policemen of the world, then he's going to take a police action to punish Bashar Assad for this chemical weapons use. This is crazy. It's standing on the head many of the left's thinkings, and I think it's just wrong-headed in the extreme.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Frank. Thank you.